I'm Russ, and this is another Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, today I want to walk you through how I was able to beat stage 21 of the Undead Hordes faction crypt. Unfortunately, the crypt closed yesterday, so I can't show you firsthand how I was able to beat it. I promise you I'll show you after I go through my champions that I did beat it. I did get 63 stars and finished it, and it was the last crypt that I needed to get Lydia, the Death Siren. I finally have her. But yeah, I want to show you the champions that I was able to use, and as I make more videos that show different crypts and how I was able to beat them, and the ones that were more difficult, the idea is how can I not just only beat them, but beat them using the least amount of resources and using the champions I already have. Depending on where you're at in the game and how many champions you have, like I have quite a few decent champions for Undead Horde, but did I really want to go through and spend all the resources and max in this champion just to fill this faction if I didn't have to? So with that said, are these the best champions? Are these the guaranteed champions you need? Is this the most efficient way to get through stage 21? Probably not. But these are the champions I had, and the ones I had closest to maxed out or maxed out. And with moving just a little bit of gear around and tweaking a few things, I was finally able to beat stage 21. Yeah, I'll walk you through since it's not open. As I'm showing you these champions, I will pinpoint parts of their kit that were important or what I used to get through the different parts and the different stages. With that said, let's dive into the first champion, Bad Alcazar. An amazing champion. If you guys don't already know, one of the OG champions of the game, just amazing kit, can be used everywhere in the game, and I have him built, not necessarily to beat faction wars, but just to use everywhere. I think actually his build's more of a clan boss build, Demon Lord. Yeah, show you his masteries real quick. The reason I say that is his War Master, which again is also really helpful against the boss in stage 21. But I do have him doing some damage. I have him with some accuracy. I do have him with lasting gifts and Master Hexer. So these are the masteries. Do not just copy them. Read through to make sure they make sense to you. There might be better builds for how to go through this, but based on healing, based on overall stats, accuracy was the main things, and then just standard damage dealing. He is 60. He is maxed ascended. He is fully booked. If you have him, you should fill out his masteries and have him booked. You should really invest in this champion if you have him, just for all content. For those of you that don't know his kit already, attacks all enemies, heals this champion and all allies by 20% of their damage inflicted based on attack. So you do want some attack on him. That's going to help heal your champions. Removes all debuffs from all allies. Places a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. Places 2 poison debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns. Accuracy is important for this. Again, booked, taking away buffs that the enemies put on you, and helping keeping the continuous heal helps keep your champions alive. And then all allies inflict 20% more damage against targets under poison. So you put out that poison, you do this AoE, and then your damage dealers do more damage. And then his overall stats, 55,000 health, which is pretty good. His AoE that heals is based on attack. Some defense for more survivability. Speed 186, could be faster, would be helpful. Again, I have him not doing a ton of damage, but guaranteed that crit, do a little bit of damage, and then accuracy for placing poisons. His accuracy definitely could be higher. So could his attack and his speed. Again, I built him a while ago for Clan Boss. I definitely could put him in better gear, but this is just what I had him in, and I didn't want to switch stuff out if I didn't have to. I'll go through his... I'm always curious when people show me their stats, where they got their stats at when I'm trying to build a champion. Attack, but really just attack percentage, defense percentage, health percentage, anything with percentage that stacks. Crit damage, so we could do a little bit of damage. More defense, speed. Could have an accuracy banner. Would be helpful. Placing those poisons. Speed. Could have a 6-star. Get him some more speed. Defense. Could have health. Easily could have health as that. And then crit rate, because I wanted to have somewhat damage dealing on him. You could definitely go survivability. You can also, and as I'll show you, I have my second Bad Alcazar is in a stun set for control, which would also be a very good build for him to have with his AoE attacks, to have a stun set for control on champions or against the waves. Second champion. So as I go through these, I would say Bad Al, and I'm going to go talk about Gorgorab and then Vogoth. I would say those 3 champions are the MVP of getting through this content, of getting through stage 21. The other 2 champions I used was Dark Helene and another Bad Al. I'll show you some other, or talk about some other champions briefly that I recommend that could probably do the job, maybe even a better job. I don't have them built. I also don't know for sure because I haven't used them and they're not built. So I don't want to like, hey, use these champions and then you build them and find out that you're not able to beat the content. I only want to tell you and show you what I use to beat this content, but based on these champions and based on understanding the game well enough, there's champions that can do a better job. Anyways, the second champion, Gorgorab, 60, 6-starred, masteries. A little bit of health and some healing, some resistance. Definitely could have dove deeper into his masteries again if I didn't have to, which I didn't. I didn't want to put more resources into something I didn't have to. With that said, Gorgorab's an amazing champion. He's a speed lead for arena. He's a great arena champion. He's kind of a different version, an epic version of Arbiter. He's also a big key to beating this faction because he's... I don't know if there's another champion they have, but his revive is huge. Having a revive is amazing. Speaking of his revive, we'll go through his skills. All these are booked. Attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of removing one random buff. So, as I mentioned, talking about not just the champions, but how I actually got through the stages. Stage 2 of the 21st stage, or stage 2 of the 21st stage is the 3 Valkyries. The 3 Valkyries are such a pain, and this it takes a while to get through, but this 50% chance of removing one random buff is huge. If you can focus on one of the Valkyries and get this to proc and get rid of their shield and get rid of their counter and just focus on killing one Valkyrie, once that Valkyrie is dead, then do it to another Valkyrie and do it to another Valkyrie, because they're going to continue to put up their shields. So this was super helpful. Again, with having Bad Al, I'm going to mention next Vogoth, who's a healer, and then my revive champion, Gorgorab. Dying during stage 2 is never an issue, because I can just revive champions that died. He revives all champions, but it's, can I beat the content? And having this ability and just chipping away at one Valkyrie until they're dead, and then chipping away, and once you have the 3 Valkyries done, it's easy to get through the other 2 champions. Speaking of that stage 2, fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%, places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. You do not want to be using buffs if you do not have to on stage 2, because it increases or decreases your turn meter the Valkyries mess with your turn meter. So if you put out a bunch of buffs, you're letting them have more turns. So if you can get through, so not only was I using his A1 to get rid of their shields, when I came to stage 2, you want to be using Bad L's A1, his A1, whatever other champions you have that aren't placing buffs on your champions. You just want to do damage to them until they put up their shield. Once they put up their shield, if you want to put buffs on your champion, it's fine. They've already gotten their turn and they've already put up they've already slowed down your turn meter or reduced it. So anyways, that's stage 2 with Gorgorab, and while he's can be super helpful with his A1, but be careful using his A2, at least right off the bat. And then revives any dead allies, any and all, with 25% HP, then heals all allies by 25%. Great healing. Booking this is really important. There's masteries that decrease the cooldown, which I would highly recommend for this champion, for this skill, especially if you're going to use them in, I guess, mainly for Faction Wars, but any other content besides maybe Arena. In Arena, you're just, once if people die, you want to revive them and attack. It's not like a continuing, you're going to be reviving people constantly in Arena. But everywhere else that you might have champions die, dungeons would be another good place. Having this booked and having masteries that decrease the cooldown is really important. And just be able to revive all allies is huge. Like I mentioned, for Arena, again, you should be building this champion if you don't have an Arbiter for Arena anyways. So having him 6-starred, having him booked, finishing his masteries is not a waste of resources. So I was able, so speaking of content, the boss ignores defense. So I had some better gear on him, a lot more defense. I'll show you his full stats actually. He had decent amount of health, I think about 42,000 health, and he had a lot more defense, but the boss ignores defense. So I switched some stuff around to really get his health up there. His abilities are based on attack, because just one of his abilities is based on attack. So I do have him with some decent attack. So he does do some damage. Defense, you want survivability. Again, I switched things around to have him as much health and be as tanky as possible. But I kind of switched the defense for health just against the boss. You want him really fast with that revive, and then his A2 increases turn meter. Just for other content, it's important for him to be quick. Doesn't do any damage, doesn't have any accuracy. Don't need accuracy. Resistance would be helpful, not necessarily for Faction Crypt, but in general. And then through his gear, attack, because his A1's based off attack. Again, for survivability, you could definitely go with HP. Got HP, he's got more HP. Again, he's got 60,000 health, a lot of survivability. Speed, you have him in all speed sets. You want him to go as fast as possible. Health. Again, I had better stats on different gear that I switched out just for the sake of having enough health that he made it through the boss. And then my third MVP for getting through this content is Vogoth. Only have him as a 50. Again, here's another champion that if you have him and you have the resources, you should make him a 60. He's an amazing champion. You can use him in the arena. He can be used in Doom Tower. He can be used in dungeons. But Faction Wars also a huge help, a healing champion. It would not hurt, and it's not a waste of resources to make him a 6-star, or 60. That said, masteries, again, didn't go through them, didn't have to. It's not a waste to go through them, but if you're low on resources, or again, I wanted to do this minimal. What's the minimum amount of resources I have to just push into these champions to get through this content? Focused on health and healing. Books would have been super helpful. This is a great champion, and having him booked would have made this a lot easier. But going through his kit, attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 30% chance of increasing the duration of a random debuff on the target by 1 turn based on HP, so you want him as much HP as possible. Attacks all enemies, has a 60% chance of placing provoke. This is huge for control, especially again against, there's 2 martyrs on stage 1. Stage 1, I never had a problem getting through it. The martyrs have provoke, but no one else in that first wave is really that threatening. But provoke or any type of control would help get through stage 1 quicker. This provoke, though, against the Valkyries is huge. Having this booked and having his accuracy probably up even more would have probably helped me get through stage 2 faster. But anyways, places a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Also has a 60% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns on targets who receive the provoke buff from this skill. Again, based on HP, you want as much HP as possible. And then accuracy, whenever this champion is attacked, so based on that provoke, you want him getting attacked, heals all allies by 50% of the damage received. Again, only heals by 25% of damage received by boss attacks, which is still fine. This champion only receives half of the heal that all other allies receive. Still a great healing champion. And then when attacked, places a leech debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. If the attacker is under a provoke debuff placed by this champion, also has a 70% chance of increasing the cooldown of a random skill on the attacker by 2 turns, occurs once per attack. Again, having books in this champion would have been awesome. I didn't have the books. We just got done with clan versus clan. I used all my epic books on different champions, and for some reason just skipped over using them on him, and I wish I would have. It would have made getting through the faction war 21 faction crypt 21 way easier, but I was able to do it, and this is all I had to do to build him to get through it. I used him as my lead, increased ally accuracy in all battles by 40, and then the next 2 champions I used was Bad L, second Bad L. I know most of you probably aren't fortunate enough to have just 2 Bad Ls hanging around, but mainly what I used him for, I mean, I already went through his kit. This one is only level 50. Masteries are pretty well maxed out, accuracy, and then just health. You could do an increase of health, some damage. But really, no books. Again, I already walked through his kit, but no books. I didn't want to put books into a second Bad Elf. I didn't have to. Stun set was the main reason. I already had him 50'd. I already had maybe already ascended, and just threw a stun set on him for control. Accuracy, decently high, could be higher. Speed, again, could be higher. He's got quite a bit of health to make it through. Make him kind of tanky. Low defense, like, again, not an ideal build. He died a lot. But again, Gorgrab revived constantly, which is fine. He kind of did his purpose. Ultimately, not a great champion for getting through as a second one. I mean, he does have a heal, which is helpful. I did have quite a bit of health on him. Again, my artifacts aren't even maxed. He's got some speed, some health against the boss. Really, he kind of just helped when he was alive. He placed a few stuns, which was helpful. I would recommend, as a control champion and a damage dealer, Husk is a great champion. I just recently watched a couple guides on Husk and how to build him. He is a HP-based champion, which is super helpful that he's based on HP, so you can build him with a bunch of health. I'm not going to show you his kit show you his my gear that I have on him, because this is not the gear that I use. I didn't use him in this content at all. He's only a 40. I haven't built him up. Again, I recommend a champion that I think will be good, but I did not use him, so I don't want to like tell you, oh, you could definitely use him and get through it. I think you can, but I don't want to make promises of something I haven't firsthand experienced. But the reason I think he'd be a great champion is he has a provoke. Attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 20% chance of placing provoke. Provoke would be huge against the Martyrs and the Valkyries. And then attacks all enemies, has a 30% chance of placing stun, so like a built-in stun set on him. So that's why I said instead of the Bad L having a champion that has a stun, you could even put him in a stun set to increase his chances of placing stun with this AoE. Damage inflicted is proportional to the enemy's max HP, so he would also be super helpful against the boss. I think just overall a better fit than a second Bad Alcazar. If I had him 50'd and had books in him, again, being an epic champion would be way easier to build than a legendary. I think he'd be a better fit than a second Bad Al. Attacks one enemy, damage increases according to his champion's current HP. Again, an HP-based champion. You can make him, I don't know what mine I have, 26. You could build him crit rate, crit damage, a bunch of health, and accuracy, and he should help clear that. He's doing a ton of damage to the boss, ton of damage to every champion. He's provoking, he's stunning. He's I think a very appreciated champion who I think would fit this my second Bad L position very well for this content. And with that said, real quick, another kind of honorable mention champion that, speaking of control, Elegaeus. Again, I don't have him built, so I don't want to say, hey, yeah, if you have Elegaeus, build him out. He's gonna help. He's gonna be a guarantee way to get through this content. Again, I think he's a better fit based on his kit and based on understanding champions in the game and stage 21. His kit makes more sense than having a second Bad L. Go through it really quick. Attacks one enemy, has a 25% chance of placing a block active skill. That's huge against, again, wave 2, actually wave 1, the Martyrs provoke, and wave 2, the Valkyries shield. Block active skills buff for 1 turn. The chance increases by 0.7% of every 1% of HP this champion loses. Again, he is a legendary champion, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to book him and max him out. Attacks one enemy, puts the target's skills on cooldown. Again, another great skill for both the Martyrs and the Valkyries. If the enemy team has any duplicates of the target champion, will also put all their skills on cooldown. Huge. Wow, I did not read that whole skill before. That would be huge for getting through that second wave. Maybe I will say he's a guaranteed better option even without using him or building him. Attacks all enemies. So with this passive, has a 75% chance of removing 2 random buffs, has a 70% chance of decreasing all enemies' turn meter by 20%, decreases enemies' turn meter by a further 0.2% for every 1% of HP this champion loses. Yeah, I think Elegaeus, man, I've not really gone through his kit before. I've not really found a reason to use him in other content and other parts of the game. But I think for Faction Wars, I actually have 2 of him. He would have been awesome. A much better fit. Crazy. And then the other champion that I used, Dark Lane, again, because she was already built, masteries, War Master, got some resistance, and have reduced the damage the champion receives from a specific enemy by 0.7% of each hit taken from the enemy. Damage reduced stacked up to 6% for each. Delayed death, War Master just doing damage. Again, her and my second battle died a lot. Squishier champion, a damage dealing champion. Nothing really special about her kit when it comes to this content. Just a damage dealer. I think there's ones that will do just as well. I'll mention them in a second. Attacks one enemy, decreases the target's max HP by 30% of the damage inflicted. Again, does great damage. Places a 50% increase attack buff on this champion for 2 turns. Then attacks all enemies. Has a 50% chance of placing a 30% decrease. Oh, come on. New tournament position. Get out of here. Chance of placing a 30% decreased speed, so accuracy would be helpful, but mine doesn't have a lot of accuracy. And then Lethal Winter fills the champion's turn meter by 25%, increases, instantly activates her Death Majesty, A2, which I think there's only one champion in the first stage that places a freeze, so this doesn't really come into effect. Veins of Ice, passive, instantly removes any freezes. Again, there's only one champion, and that first stage is not challenging that I found by any means. But removes any freeze debuffs on this champion and replaces them with 30% increased crit rate buff, a 30% crit damage buff, and a 15% strengthen buff whenever an enemy places a freeze buff on this champion. Again, she was already built. Dang, I lost my spot. But based on champions, I think there's a couple that would do as good of a job, if not better. For the Undead Hordes, apologize that I lost my spot. Okay. Sato is a damage dealing freak. Decreased defense, which would have been helpful. Don't have decreased defense on the team I used. Increased attack, increased crit damage, and then just based on attack. Again, he's attack-based champion. He's going to be squishier, but having, I mean, my Dark Lane's squishy. I did not show you, apologize. Did not show you her total stats. 42,000 health, 4,500 attack, super slow, needs to be faster. Crit rate's 100%, which is awesome. Crit damage is low. Like, not a great build by any means. I built her a long time ago, and have just not made a point to build her up. Attack, crit damage, attack, speed, defense for some survivability, attack, because I found crit rate with gear and crit damage. Again, she was already built, so I used her, level 60. She is booked out on all of her skills, all of them based on attack. That's why she has 4,500 attack. Again, though, Sato, a legendary champion, I understand to be harder to obtain than a Dark Lane, but is a great damage dealing champion. He'd do a better job, I would say, of dealing damage. And then again, I think Husk, a great damage dealer too. So when it comes to just the champions that I have that I could highly recommend, even Seeker, if you built him with a lot of health, let's check out. Yeah, mine's, again, I built him a long time ago. He does some damage, accuracy, he does place provoke, a lot of defense, kind of just a average build. I think I built him more for clan boss as well. He does a provoke, War Master, to do some damage to bosses. He has an increase turn meter like Gorgorab. He has a provoke on his A1, which is nice. Could be used as a somewhat of a control champion if you have him. But again, my team, the 2 Bad Elves, Dark Elaine, Gorgorab, Vogoth, I showed you through their kits. my second battle, level 50, not completely, no books, masteries aren't complete. Gorgorab masteries aren't complete. Definitely could have some better gear, or at least finish upgrading his gear. Vogoth booked would have been super helpful. So you have your healers, your 3 healers, your reviver, and then really 1 damage dealer. With that said, the 3 MVPs is Vogoth as my lead with that accuracy, Gorgorab with that revive, and then Bad Alcazar with the continuous heals, the healing, and then I had the control Bad Al, which again, if anyone else that has an AoE, you could put in a stun set, or another champion that has any type of control would be super helpful. You could definitely fill in for this Bad Al. And then Dark Elaine, another damage dealer, I think would do just as well. So hopefully that helps walk you through how I beat this content. Again, I know it's not as helpful if I couldn't walk you through it as I beat each stage. It did take a while. It took a grind. And I also failed. Luckily for Faction Wars, you can, if you haven't beat the boss, you can click out of it. You can cancel out of the fight and try again. I guess 2 last things. The boss bases, he ignores your defense. So you want a lot of health because he's going to ignore your defense. So if you have your tanky champions with a bunch of defense, it doesn't matter. He's going to ignore that. So that's something to think about. That's why I switched out some of Gorgorab's gear just to get him higher health because his defense was super high. And then another thing, and the reason why you might have to go through the boss multiple times is, besides his ignored defense, he has an attack that what he does is he stuns everybody except for one that he fears. The one he fears he hits, and he hits super hard. And then after that move, he just randomly hits somebody. The fear is random in how he stuns 4 of your champions and then fears 1, and that's the one he's going to hit, and then he randomly hits 1. If it just so unluckily is that it's Gorgorab that he hits and kills, you have to restart because that's your reviver. If he does that to anyone else, great. You want him to focus on people. As long as you have your turn meter high and you have your speed high and you are booked for Gorgorab, you can just continue to revive whatever champions he decides to kill. And you can just chip away at his health. So that was the team that I was able to beat, the Undead Hordes Faction Crypt. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully if you have these champions and if you haven't beat this content yet, hopefully this was enough information to help you get through it. I know it's something that I struggled getting through, and I kind of just finally pushed myself through just to make sure I finished. With that said, before I say so long, I just want to make sure, just to show that I'm not lying, I did beat it. You saw the champions I had, unless you think I beat it with champions I didn't show you that are not even close to being maxed out. Those are the champions I used. I did get my 63 stars. I did get Lydia yesterday. So, that's how I beat it. So hopefully, again, that's helpful. Good luck to you. I hope you guys are smashing through your Faction Wars. If you're not done yet, I hope you get Lydia. And before the Shadowkin faction opens, I know they're going to open a new faction kin, which is just going to make getting Lydia just that much harder if you don't already have a bunch of Shadowkin champions maxed out. So hopefully you're grinding, hopefully you're pushing. Wish you the best of luck getting Lydia, and until next time, see you later.